This is Blake Temez with the Blake Temez podcast, where I speak as a Catholic layman to Catholic laymen about missional living, wisdom cultivation, and legacy building in service of Christ and his bride, the Church. Thanks for being here. One concept that has made a big influence on how I view the work that I do, and also some of the things that I create and work on in my personal life, is the concept of intermediate packets, or IPs for short, a concept developed by Tiago Forte and spoken about, developed on in his book, Building a Second Brain. Now, I don't use Tiago Forte's methodology thoroughly. I do use some of his principles for organizing digital files into a para structure, into projects and areas and resources and the archive. I remembered what it all stood for. So I do use some of his ideas here and there, but by no means am I like a thorough student of his principles. Just I've taken what's made the most sense to me, and one of those things, like I've already mentioned, are these intermediate packets, these IPs. And the general idea is that when you are working on a project, you can see each smaller product that you produce along the way as a resource to use later, such that it's not just the final product that is the content that you're working with in the future, but you can actually draw from and recycle the different versions and drafts and various things to use in other projects in the future, so that you're not always starting from step one. You're not always starting with a blank page, but actually being able to see something that you've already made and rework it and adapt it and use it in a new way. And this can be a game-changing perspective for someone working in ministry, especially if you're developing ministry sessions, retreats, and just other events on your own, and not simply just executing a pre-made curriculum. Then it's that much more important for you to have a way of keeping track of and then recycling and improving things that you've created, so that, as let's call it you an entrepreneurial minister, you're not always left with this blank page and this burden of recreating the wheel each time. And so in my current work right now of developing a retreat for a group of high schoolers at their parish, I'm enthusiastic about the opportunity to take what I developed for this retreat and save it in a format that I can easily find and then edit, so that it can be adapted and improved on in the future. Even if the needs of some other group are not quite the same as the needs of this first group, all of the thought and the effort that's going into developing these sessions and these activities are thought and effort that can pay dividends, not just for the single event, but for events in the future as well. And so this can take different forms. It can be developing a game to play with a youth group and then saving that and retrying it and adapting it as you go. It can be saving your notes for presentations on different talks that you've given and making sure that those are somewhere that can be retrieved and then adapted for future presentations. Because if you're working in the realm of young adult ministry or youth ministry, there's going to be some topics that are reoccurring, right? There's going to be the talk about confirmation. There's going to be a talk about dating. There's going to be a talk about social media. a talk about evolution and the Bible, things like that, that um, oftentimes are these recurring themes, and every new group of high schoolers will oftentimes be exposed to those set of ideas at least once. And so saving those notes and creating this abundance of resources to draw from, and not just to settle on, like you've written the talk once and so you deliver the same talk every single time, but the difference between redoing everything from the bottom up and simply making some revisions based off of what worked well last time, what it seems like the needs are of this group this time, and all of that discernment and prayer and preparation that goes into each new venture. So that's the idea of intermediate packets applied to the ministry context. There are some workflows and systems that I'm developing to make some of these ways of saving and retrieving and reusing some of this content more workable for me. And so most likely I'll explore that with some of you, or with you that are listening, in the future. So in any case, think about how you can make the best use of your notes and your activities and the different programs that you develop, and save them in a format such that you can draw from them in the future. So that's my encouragement to you. As always, thank you for your time and attention, and God bless you in all your efforts. Peace. If you're a young Catholic man or a mentor, missionary, or minister who works with them, or even just a concerned figure in their life, a parent, uncle, whoever it might be on the lookout for the release of a short guide that I'm putting together called Brothers by Blood: How to Forge a New Path for Catholic Manhood. In it, I'll expand on some of the topics in this podcast and give you some points of reflection to see about how you can be a part of a movement that empowers men and brings them to their full potential for their sake, and also for the benefit of the church, and by extension, the benefit of all society. So again, thank you for being a part of this, and look out for more information about the release of my guide in episodes to come.